What's this? We like Super Eyepatch Wolf, right, guys?
Beetle, thank you for the super chat. Where did you get your YouTube name, Eyepatch Wolf? Okay, so there's two answers to this. And the first one is that I was playing Metal Gear Solid 5 and I thought D-Dog was really cool. I just thought D-Dog was so fucking awesome. And I loved that cutscene where Otacon's like, you people can't even tell that that's not a dog, it's a wolf! You know, I really, really enjoyed that. But then, like, wolves are something that I've really loved for a long, long time.
I like wolves.
A good 70% of that is just thinking that they're rad. But there's a part of it as well, and I've talked about this on stream before, where, like, there's a weird... wolves have, like, a weird connection to Ireland in that a long, long time ago, wolves used to be a really huge part of Irish culture. And that this was, like, in the pre-Catholic days of Ireland. You had things like families would bring wolves in from the wild and basically raise them as part of the family. And they were like hugely important in like Druid ceremonies. They were hugely important in like ancient Irish culture. And that lasted up until Cromwell. And when Cromwell started taking over Ireland, and he issued this kind of dictate that no civilized culture could be intertwined with wolves. It was just not something that we could do, you know? And so what he did is he brought in a load of wolf hunters from England and put these like exorbitantly high bounties on wolves. When he did that, the Irish wolf was hunted to complete extinction. And of course, like, it wasn't about wolves being a danger. It wasn't about like trying to civilize Ireland, which is like its own fucking problem as well. It was about this empire looking at this piece of indigenous culture and wiping it out. And that's what they did. They hunted the Irish wolf to complete extinction. And it sucks because the Irish wolf had been a Irish wolf for so long that it was fully likely that it was its own genome, that it was its own species of wolf, and that's gone now. And it's gone because and look, chat, I don't use this word
tell the space wolves of this. That guy's dead though.
Often I really don't, because I don't like it, and my mom asked me not to use it, but because of that Cromwell and his horrifying genocidal ways. And so, you know, I've talked about like being Irish on these streams kind of here or there, but it's a strange cultural identification to have. You know, there's a lot about this culture that is weird, and there's a lot about it that can be really, really hard to reconcile with.
Yeah, there's a lot of culture that gets lost over the years, and that's why I really think a lot of places should protect their culture as much as they can. Like Japan, it's trying to now. I think culture is probably the most important part of your civilization.
And to me, I think it's really sad isn't the word, you know?
It's not sad, it's
like devastating that happened.
It's soul crushing.
Devastating that my people lost that connection to nature.
It'd be like, let me take an example. Basically, it'd be like if Japan lost kimonos and sakura viewing. It'd be like if England lost... I'm trying to think of like the perfect example in England. It'd be if you guys lost, like, I guess, your connection to like badgers, and like maybe if you lost your connection to like the old like teas and biscuits and stuff like that. Like, you lost something that people associate you with. You don't have that anymore because someone else came along and destroyed it completely. You can't get it back. It's like you've lost... Like put it in terms that probably everyone can understand. Basically, like, tea culture. Basically, like, if everyone's had a first love, right? When you've lost your first love, you felt that little bit of hole in your heart. That's kind of what you've lost. You've lost a piece of part of you. You've lost an important piece of you that you're not getting back. But it wasn't because someone left. It's because someone came in, took it, smashed it to pieces, and said no.
And I think that's really fucking horrible. Like, it's just
terrible.
It's tragic in a way that I really don't even know how to put into
like
words.
It's hard to put to words. Like, he's right. That's all I was trying to do. I didn't do a very good job. But I'm trying to say, like, yeah, you should always try to protect your culture whenever possible. Pay attention in class. Yeah.
And so, you know, the older I got, the more I stopped looking at wolves as like, hey, this fucking cool ass thing, man. Yeah, wolves are rad. Howl at the full moon, lone wolf, yeah. And the more I started seeing them as like this, you know, kind of lost piece of our identity. And it sucks. And like, that's specifically the story with this tattoo. This is a wolf skull lying in the grass, because that's what happened. You know, and it's my way of celebrating that piece of Irish culture. And so yeah, that's what I like about.
That's what I think scientists should do. Stop trying to bring back dinosaurs. Let's try to bring back, like, species that are probably actually bring backable.
Wolves, I think they're cool. Oh, that reminds me, did you see the Leftist Cook's most recent video on Irish identity? It's pretty heavy, but very good. Yeah, I actually watched the first, like, 40 minutes of that this morning and really, really liked it. I might stick it in the chat. But yeah, being Irish it's deeply strange.
No, you want your T-Rex,
you know, like,
now?
it's strange in a way that I often find very hard to put into words, and in a way that I'm, like, still learning about. Like...
They didn't even bring back the real direwolf. You know that, right? Direwolves are huge. They brought back an amalgamation of different wolves combined together that kind of resemble a direwolf. Here's the fun part. They ain't even half the size of a direwolf. A direwolf got up to, like, huge sizes.
Have you guys ever seen the old Punch cartoons?
They're like 4 times bigger than regular wolves.
Okay, so some of this stuff gets pretty grim, and some of this stuff deals with just like
they basically
racism.
Brought back teacup.
So
direwolves.
I'm gonna just offer you a little warning here up front with that. This is going to be most of this stuff is going to be racism against the Irish. A little bit of it bleeds into racism against, like, African cultures and black people.
Yeah. It's kind of odd to, like, try to explain to people that, yes, Irish racism is still a thing. Why do you think I got so upset at Disney for constantly, like, removing Irish, like, characters and stuff? Like, it's a very sore subject.
So yeah, some of this stuff is heavy and it sucks. You'll see how, like, African races and stuff bleed into it, but yeah. I think this is the kind of thing, though, like, you can't...
Speaking on the direwolf thing, they got a wolf that's believed to be an ancestor. Not an ancestor, a current day ancestor of it. And then they added genomes of direwolf to it. But we don't really have a good direwolf genome, so we used other wolves to fit into the places we were missing. Here's the funny part. We're missing kind of the size thing and some of the other stuff.
I'll switch over screen in a sec, but just say like some of this stuff is like it sucks, like it's really horrible, awful shit. But I also don't think it's the kind of shit you can ignore or forget about. Like you can't pretend this didn't happen. So it's a lot of shit like this, right? This is meant to be, I guess, like a British gentleman, and what he's done is he's cast these letters that spell out home rule, and it's this pig. So this is back in the day where Irish people, we were basically colonized by Britain, and our land was taken away from us and all this shit. And so for a very, very long time, we were trying to become independent again. And one of the forms of independence was home rule. And home rule was basically us ruling Ireland, but still being a part of Britain. But there was a lot of like British who said that even that was too much because we were uncivilized and we wouldn't be able to run our own country. It would just be like mentally beyond us. And so you have a pig wearing glasses here. This is meant to be an Irish person, and they don't know what to do with home rule. That is literally what this means. There's so much of this kind of art, like, which is all like, and a lot of it's just really like centered around the Irish and how inept they are. So here's like a British gentleman, and here is like a horned ogre-like Irish person, the Irish Frankenstein. And it's just, yeah, there was so much, and some of it is like so vile. This isn't even like the really bad shit.
Yeah, there's stuff that's way worse.
So here's the great British line staring down like the Irish monkey. Like this is how these like geopolitical conflicts were portrayed in British media.
Yeah.
And like this isn't from like that long ago. Like I think this is like I'm guessing is around like probably like shit like this was made in like the 20th century, you know, as in like 1900 to not about 1960. I think this one says 1840s, so somewhere around there. But there is so much of this shit. Here's like, you know, the British peasant and the Irish like goblin person riding on their back. Here is a British person, and then the Irish signing like their own independent. What does this say? We copied the following paragraph from the article of the Nation Irish newspaper, written in anticipation of the war of this country in America. And yeah, it's just a bunch of fucking bullshit. Some of it's like too specific to bother explaining, but
some of it like it's kind of like hard to describe from the time, but like basically, you know how they used to do with African Americans? Well, they did it with the Irish too. So we know about racism.
Like here's another one. This is an Irish person, the Irish Tempest, and here he is threatening Britain, but also demanding money from them, which is just like, holy fucking shit, guys. And there's just so much of that, and like it just keeps getting worse and worse. Again, it's like this is the law against the anarchic Irish goblin person. Oh yeah. Again, like here's British society, and here is the Irish ogre invading the Irish Frankenstein. Oh, here, I guess this is a drawing of.
Yeah, it was basically a lot of countries.
This is what they imagine to be an Irish parliament, and it's just fucking chaos. Or this looks recent. Here it is. Oh dear, not the Irish Christians again. The idea being that the lions are more civilized than the Iron Christians in the Colosseum, which very good punch, very imaginative. Here's like the typical Irish family. You've got your goblin man, you've got your woman breastfeeding one of her 18 children, and them about to blow themselves up because they're morons. But yeah, it's a lot of just really.
They get rather macabre and odd and stuff.
The real potato blight of Ireland, and it's a weird Irish potato person. There's one more I want to find. The Irish devilfish. This one. This one is so fucking crazy. It's like, yeah, this is Ireland, and here is a British gentleman basically taming it. The creature is formidable, but there is a way of resisting it. The devilfish, in fact, is only vulnerable through the head, and it's basically about killing the heads of Ireland to make the rest of the country fall in line. And it's fucking crazy, you know?
It's kind of wild.
I learned about a lot of that shit in secondary school, but I thought it was real, like, distant shit. Like, I thought it was shit that people didn't think about anymore, and there was no real kind of...
People will perpetuate racism.
...teeth to it. But then I remember, and I've told this story before on stream, but one time I was at a con, an American con. I was a guest there. I'd been invited over to do this thing. One thing I kind of noticed about a lot of Americans is they would be super fixated on the fact that I was Irish. And that always caught me off guard, because to me, it's like, the fact that I'm Irish isn't a big deal. Like, I don't go walk around thinking I am Irish every day, because it's just my reality. It's just the kind of way that I kind of live, you know? I was about to go out on stage, and one of the organizers of this event just goes, "Listen, don't get too drunk before you go out on stage." And I was like, "What?" And then he was like, "You know, because you're Irish." And like, he was kind of trying to like poke fun or whatever. And what I would say is, like, if that was like a mate of mine, like if that was Wooly has kind of earned that a little bit, but it felt fucking really like weird, like just like, and I was like, why would you say that, you know? And immediately he could tell like I was not happy, and immediately he got like very apologetic. But it was like, it was just this really weird, uncomfortable thing, and it was the first time I had ever
it's both a joke and a it is still kind of racist, but like some of us are more bothered by it than others. But also, to be fair to Iron Wolf, I don't think, I could be wrong though, but I don't think he drinks a lot. So like it would be kind of insulting to him to just mention that out of nowhere. Like if you were drinking at the time, it would be as insulting. It'd be funny. But yeah, that's a like, weird place to mention. And
like, I don't know what you call it, like the lightest form of prejudice, because I know people go through way worse than that. But like, since that, I have met the odd American, right? And they'll be like, "So you're Irish?" And you're like, yeah, I'm Irish. And then they'll be like, "Okay, cool." And then the conversation will move on, and then they'll be like, "So you're Irish?" Yeah. And they kind of look at you. And then they'll be the ones who, once they get a little bit comfortable, they'll be the ones making the potato jokes. You know, they'll be the ones making the alcoholic jokes. They'll be the ones kind of doing this shit, you know? And it's weird because it's like, when people make jokes, what they're referring to is the famine, obviously. You know, I'm sure you guys have heard of...
Yeah, yeah, don't joke too much about it.
The Irish famine. Only the thing is, like, there wasn't really an Irish famine. You know, it was like there was a potato blight, and what caused the famine was Britain taking the crops to Britain and leaving us with nothing to fucking eat. There are still stories, like, this was shit that kind of like my grandparents and great-grandparents went through. And you can, like, there are stories passed down in my, like, through my family, through my bloodline, about what the famine actually was. And you hear these stories about people being so hungry and so desperate that they would literally throw themselves from cliffs rather than have to deal with the reality that this caused. And it's like this deeply like generationally traumatic thing that I think you can still feel today. Like you can still see parts of Ireland where, you know, that trauma has been endured, and it's like a trauma that was passed down from like parent to child to parent to child to parent to child. And there's still like a morbidly high suicide rate in Ireland. There's still like a massive mental health crisis in Ireland, and I don't think it's all that, but it's like a part of it. And so like when someone else from like another country makes like a potato joke or whatever, it feels fucking weird. And I'm not
it's a little weird, but
saying like they shouldn't be able, and I'm not saying like if someone did, I would immediately think they were like an awful person, because I know a lot of the times they just don't really understand what they're saying or where it comes from. And is this why the population is so low? Okay, that's actually a really interesting point. The Irish population before the Great Potato Famine was 8.2 million. 8.2 million people. The population of Ireland in 2025 is 5.5 million. That is how many people that we lost to the potato famine. Now, there's some nuance in those numbers as well. It's not that all of them died to starvation. You had a lot of immigration. You had a lot of people leaving the country.
Yeah.
But like the potato famine was like this absolutely horrific thing that happened in this country. And there were hundreds of thousands of people, like millions of people starving, hundreds of thousands of people dying in just like the most abject poverty you can imagine. So yeah, like when someone makes a potato joke to me, it is a bit like, you know, I can be polite and I can laugh it off, but it's like, it's hard not to think of my ancestors, you know? It's hard not to think of like the shit they went through and the shit they endured, and it's hard to laugh about that, you know? Like, and this isn't, again, like, it's not even something that happened, like, it happened in living memory of like my grandparents or great grandparents, or at least like the after effects of it. So like, no, it's not something I really want to fucking yuck it up about with someone who kind of doesn't understand that culture. Like, it's not, to me, like a particularly funny thing. But then so it's yeah, being Irish is really weird. Being Irish is really weird. And now we're having this problem where the identity of being Irish has started to be co-opted by all like these far right movements, and somehow bewilderingly it's become an anti-immigration thing. And that makes me so insane, because if you know the history of Ireland, if you know what our country had to go through, and you know what we had to do to survive, I just don't understand how you can see it as that. But yeah, it's it's sad. Ireland's in a really weird state. I think, like, what's the word, like ethnicity wise, we've always been a weird state, because like we're kind of like, we're white, like we're absolutely white, like that is 100% a thing. But it's like, someone a while ago
we're never treated as white though. We're white adjacent.
Blue Sky, and they didn't mean this in like a mean way, and I don't take it as a mean way, but they referred to Irish people as like spicy white.
Yeah.
But the thing about being like spicy white is that you're right on the edge. You know, like the Ku Klux Klan, fucking they hate the Irish in terms, alongside everything else they hate, like not with the same passion, and there's not the same history there. I don't want to conflate those two things at all, but like you're right on the edge, you know. And I'm like, I know that if there was ever a kind of scenario where like the worst among us, the most racist among us got their way, the Irish would immediately be in that chopping block, because we're not like Eurocentric or whatever fucking bizarre culture those people cling to, you know. So I'm always very, very conscious that like, shit, you know, as soon as other minorities get it, we would start getting it eventually as well, you know. H.P. Lovecraft was prejudiced against people like the Dutch as well as many others. Yeah, so H.P. Lovecraft has a story about the bog people of Ireland, and like, you know, I say this as someone who has genuine like I I like a lot of H.P. Lovecraft stories. I think they're like, he was an incredible writer with a great mind, but dude was a fucking asshole. He was such a piece of shit. But he has a story about like the Irish bog people, and it is just like, oh my god, dude, at least try and veil it a little bit. H.P. Lovecraft also loved Lord Dunsany though, weirdo. I think, but I think that's like how Lovecraft saw it. He was very much like, oh, one of the good ones. Like, if you were a civilized Irish person who had become, you know, who began to emulate your British overlords, you were fine. If you were like a Irish farmer with no education working the fields, you were an ape. You know, like that is how he saw it. I don't know. Honestly, I don't like conflating like what Irish people went through with what like black people went through, or what like, you know, indigenous Native American peoples went through, because like there is, I think you can get trapped in some really not great ways of thinking there, and I think those arguments have also been used to justify some really shitty things. So I do want to be a little careful about that stuff. But I guess to end this on a positive note, you want to know one of my favorite pieces of obscure Irish history? When the Irish famine did happen, one of the only groups to reach out and send us food and aid were the Native Americans. And I think that is such a beautiful and cool thing. And then it wasn't even that long ago when there was a Native American, I'm blanking on the details. I read this a couple of years ago, but basically a Native American settlement found itself in like trouble.
So we chose
and
a heavy
the
breakfast
Irish
meal
sent
today.
A heavy breakfast meal? I suppose.
aid over as a like fucking fist bump, as in like got you back, you know? I think that's so fucking cool. You know, I think like there is so much there where it's like these two cultures that never met before but have been through, I don't want to say similar shit because it's not really similar, it's like parallel, that have been through parallel shit. They could kind of show up for each other, and I wish more cultures could do that, you know? I think that'd be...
I do wish more cultures could. Like I said, you need to like protect your culture. We can be funny, we can laugh, we can joke all day, but also at the same time still try to keep your culture alive.
Be really cool. So yeah, Ireland is it's bizarre being Irish. It is a really strange nationality to inhabit, especially on like a national level, and it continues to be complicated. Wow, this wasn't a fun discussion.
Yeah. Well, heavier than I thought it was gonna be. Sorry about that. But yeah, like, at the end of the day, we're all peoples. At the end of the day, we're all peoples. So how's everyone doing? After that. Yeah, it was more historical. You're speaking from someone that knows about this stuff, but also has lived in America. No, I know it's more of a joke. It's a joke slightly connected to some bad things, yeah, but I get that people are trying to be funny. Where memes? I know! And Bean is back. Hi, Bean. Where are my bush baked beans? Arrgh.